My name is Sarah Hotchkiss. I own Catalyst Wellness Coaching downtown. I also work part-time at the doctor's office on the south side. I've talked about that many times. I think every time anybody comes here, I talked about that kind of as an option for cash pay primary care. So if anything you want to go to your general practitioner for, anything maybe you would go to urgent care for, sore throats, COVID stuff, your stomach doesn't feel good, any kind of chronic health stuff, we're down on Burbank. And then I am primarily downtown on Milwaukee Street, of course, across from like what will be the Children's Museum, hopefully next year. Sometimes when I tell people where I am, they don't know where I am, and then I say, oh, I'm down from 808 Cheesecake, and everybody's like, oh, yeah. So the nutrition office is by the cheesecake. Yeah. You need to know. I'm upstairs in Studio 107 Salon, and so sometimes people know that too. So we're kind of like a one-stop shop for middle-aged women, I say. So we have medical grade like aesthetics up there, hair, nails, there's a nurse up there, I'm up there. It's like a good, you just spend the day and get all your things taken care of. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and nutritionist. I specialize particularly in people with autoimmune conditions, so things like ulcerative colitis, Hashimoto's, celiac, and then my other specialty in particular is GI disease, so small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, put ulcerative colitis in there too, Crohn's, just traditional sort of IBS, which a lot of times is the diagnosis we give people and we don't really know what it is, but you have the symptoms that correlate with that. A lot with blood chemistry. If you work with me, I'll be reviewing a ton of labs. I may look at them a little bit different than your traditional doctor does. A chunk with hormones and cortisol testing, and then weight loss for sure. And sometimes weight gain. Some people are coming for weight gain too if they're very ill. Sometimes I think I'm people's last stop after they've been through the medical world for a long time, or they come in there on lots of medications, they feel just awful. I tend to see women over the age of 40. I see teenagers and men and people across the gamut, but on average I'm working with 40-something women. Does anybody guess why?
Menopause.
Right. That's when things are they go a little awry. So 40-something women is a lot of times how I'm seeing, because things that they were doing before aren't working anymore, or they put on extra weight, perimenopause is sitting in. Also, often they're in the role of mom, wife, working full time, and they've just completely burned out by 40-something. And so lots of things are happening at that time, and so that's hard. I've worked with people into their 80s, and I work with kids too, so just depends. I work primarily around this idea of inflammation. The idea that inflammation is sort of everything, and if you have a lot of inflammation, you're not going to feel good, and if you don't have much inflammation, you will feel great. I work at that with people from the mental health realm, physiological things, and testing, and then the emotional piece too. And that's a little bit we're going to talk about today, is mindset as it relates to food and kind of your emotional relationship with food. That's a good topic for January, because lots of people are trying new things in January or wanting to set new goals and things like that. So in front of you, there's a few handouts. There's just my information there. I had some leftover cards from when I spent 3 months at Basics talking about hormones last year. We covered thyroid stuff, we covered cortisol stuff, and I covered sex hormones. Progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, DHEA, all of that stuff. All of those presentations are on my blogs on my website. So there's years of information on my website if you go under blog, and they're short and sweet, one-pager, kind of read things with links and things like that. So every month there's a different topic, and every time I'm here it's something different. We try to cater it to kind of the season a little bit, so almost always January is usually about consistency versus perfection, or goals, or habit stacking, or today mindset, because that's usually what people need to hear in the beginning of the year. Usually when I come in November, it's something like sugar or something like that, right before the holidays come. And I don't usually come in December because no one shows up or cares, because everybody's eating pie. So it's true. And no one calls me in December either. But then in January, it's I've been thinking. I'm like, yeah, you and 5,000 other people in Shanesville. So as I ask you these questions, just think through if maybe one or more of these apply to you. So you may have an unhealthy relationship with food, Do you feel guilty when you eat? Maybe some of the time, all the time. You can even like sometimes I do a Likert scale with this when I do evals with people, like a 1, 2, 3. 3 meaning all, like a lot of the time. 2 means some of the time. 1 meaning no, I don't. That's not an issue for me. So you feel guilty when eating some or all foods. You avoid or restrict foods and you call them bad. I try not to think of like bad and good foods. When I'm working with people, we're working on foods that work for your body, period. They're not bad and good. They're just what fits you and what doesn't. Do you have a long list of rules surrounding foods that you can and cannot eat? I see this often. I've been through this personally with some of my struggles with my bacterial overgrowth in my gut, that there was a chunk of foods that I couldn't eat in the beginning. Although I felt amazing, it was hard because I was only eating like 7 or 8 foods in the beginning when I was really bad, and then slowly kind of build that up kind of over the years. If you worked with me personally, you've heard my egg story, that every January I try some egg whites because I think this will be the year Belle will tolerate egg whites, and every year egg whites and salmon are just a no-go. They just don't sit well with me, so I'll probably never have those again. But that's okay, because when I have them, I feel awful, so it's not worth it. Do you think about food all the time? Your next meal, what you're gonna have? Do you eat until you are uncomfortable? Sometimes, all the time. And I work with people on what I would call unconscious hunger, which is the title of your handout, and your emotional relationship with food. We talk about on a 1 to 10 scale. 10 is like, you're so hungry, you're like, you just feel gross and you've eaten too much and you're just like, ugh, you feel super uncomfortable. 1 is like your blood sugar's crashing, you're gonna pass out, like, you're in bad shape. So we talk about when to eat, and we talk about that it's okay to feel hungry. I think sometimes in our culture, we just continue to eat because when we're a little bit hungry, we gotta quick fill that void. You can analyze that all you want, but there's a piece of that there of like, why do we have to fill the void of like when we're a little bit hungry? It's okay to feel hungry. If you're hungry, that means maybe in an hour or so you should eat if you're a little bit hungry, but I like to scale it with people. So if you're hungry on like a 3 or 4, that doesn't mean you need to go grab a snack or crackers right away. That just means, oh, maybe in an hour you're gonna eat lunch or dinner, and that's okay. But you don't need to eat every time you get to a 3 or 4. That's why people end up eating snacks and sort of grazing all day, and then we lose track of how many calories we're getting in that day and whether or not those are nutritious choices. If you eat every time you hit a 3, you're gonna be eating all day, like 7, 8 times a day. And so that's not always great either. And probably more than you need. What I like to have people do is make sure they're eating by the time they hit about a 7, maybe. And maybe for you it's an 8 or maybe it's a 6, but something on the upper end of that scale. That means, okay, I better eat now. Because you don't want to get to a 9 or 10, you're not going to feel good. But you don't need to eat every time you get to a 3 or 4. So just think about that next time you're hungry, sort of how hungry are you? And then you can decide. Same with how full are you? When you're sitting down and eating a meal, eat till you hit like an 8. 7 or an 8, not a 10, not a 9, not a 4 though either, because then you're just gonna wanna eat again. So I see this a lot of times with people who get up and eat cereal in the morning, Cheerios, whatever. It kind of just goes right through you, You eat it and it tastes good and it's hyper palatable, so you probably eat a lot of it. And so you're getting a lot of kind of empty calories. And then in an hour, you're like, when I ask people like their food journals and what they eat, they'll say, well, at 7:30 I have Cheerios with blueberries or something, which isn't some awful meal. But it's pretty much just a lot of carbohydrates, not a lot of fiber. It's gonna go right through you. And I'll say, okay, it's 7:30. And then they'll say, well then at 9:30 I need my snack. I'm like, wait a second, you just ate 2 hours ago. So it's choosing like nutritious, protein-dense foods so you don't have to eat all the time. Then you don't have to think about food as much either because you don't have to eat all the time. When I'm working with people on meal plans, I usually do between 3 and 4, I call them meals a day. Next year I want to get t-shirts made that says, eat a meal, not a snack. So that's one of the things you'll hear me say all the time. We really lose track of like snacks and snacky. If you eat 3 meals a day, or maybe it's 3 meals and a protein shake, 3 meals and a snack, or 4 meals, you'll probably do really well. It also helps kind of regulate your blood sugar. Again, you're not waiting until a 9 or 10 or you're not eating at a 9 or 10 or eating more when you're at an 8 because you're already full. You're not waiting until you're at a 1, that's not good either. You're not eating every time you hit a 3. Maybe at like a 5 or a 6, you're like, okay, I should start getting, maybe it's dinner ready or something like that. So have an emotional awareness of just kind of where your hunger and kind of fullness scale is, and that'll help you make good decisions about whether or not you need to eat. So I see this we did a topic on intermittent fasting, I think 2 years ago maybe, and people are like, oh, do you like intermittent fasting or don't you? And my answer is it depends. It depends on your body, depends on your age, depends on your thyroid, depends on if you're postmenopausal, all those things. And that's something to evaluate individually. So that's why I don't like to give general advice about if you should do intermittent fasting or you should not. I do because I'm not hungry in the morning and I just listen to my body. But around 11-ish is usually like my first meal. But I make sure my first meal is not Cheerios and blueberries. I make sure it's like, yeah, maybe it's chicken and I can do egg yolks, maybe egg yolks, or it's a protein shake. But it's something with protein, carbohydrates, fat, like a little bit of everything in there. And then I'm not hungry again, for hours after. My last meal, probably unlike many of you, is more like 8:30 p.m. because that's usually when I get home. But you have to do what works for your schedule and, for your body. So my answer at intermittent fasting is, if you're hungry right when you wake up, you should eat. If you're at a 7, when you wake up, you should eat. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just different. If you are not hungry when you wake up, don't make yourself eat a big omelet to where you feel sick and you don't feel good. Just wait. But don't wait till 1 or 2 in the afternoon when you're at a 1 and you're crashing and your blood sugar's awful, and then you eat all the things. Then you overeat. So you gotta find that like sweet spot in that hungry kind of fullness scale. Do you avoid eating around others? Some people have issues with that. Do you feel the need to over-exercise or restrict after eating too much? I hear this a lot too. People are like, well, I went out to eat last night. I had cheesecake, so now I'm gonna, walk an extra, 2 miles on the treadmill, or and it's a little bit of a form of self-punishment sometimes, like, oh, we're just gonna balance that out. Which, by the way, walking an extra mile or 2 on the treadmill isn't even gonna touch a cheesecake, so don't even, you can do it if you want, but like it doesn't even really average out. So the cheesecake was probably 600 calories, and you walking on the treadmill is probably like 85, so just go home. And you can walk extra on the treadmill if you want, but don't do it because you had the cheesecake and punish yourself. That's what I'm saying. You keep eating foods even though they make you feel bad. I hear this every day. I hear this with dairy a lot. I'm not anti-dairy, but most of us just do not digest it well, 80% of us. I hear people say all the time. So I'm on the phone with them, or we're in the first session, and they'll say, ooh, dairy does not sit well with me. And they'll give all these examples or whatever, and I'll say, what happens? Oh, I get a headache, like you get bloated, like you feel nauseous, like all these things. I'm like, whoa, that sounds awful, okay? Then 15 minutes later in the session, I'll say, Patty's like, yep, I do this all the time. You told me to do this. So then I'll say, okay, what's your typical diet? Because they'll say, well, the dairy doesn't make me feel good, I stay away from dairy. Oh, I have yogurt in the morning, and then I have string cheese, and then I have cream sauce on my chicken or whatever. I'm like, ugh, like how do you feel after that? Oh, not good. Gee, I wonder why. And so sometimes we have a disconnect between why do we keep doing that? And it seems so basic and easy, but it's not. Also, cheese tastes good. So is ice cream. Like it tastes good. It's hyperpalatable in that regard too. I'm not anti-cheese, like in Wisconsin, but I hear that with gluten. And I hear that with cruciferous vegetables. I'm like that with cruciferous vegetables. Man, I love roasted cauliflower, but oof, it's not, I can take like 2 bites and I'm done. And I know it's because of my small intestine condition. I've learned that about myself, and so I just don't eat cauliflower. There's plenty of other vegetables in the world. And so you have to learn what works for you. Don't keep trying to eat the thing if it doesn't sit with you. Other than, like I said, once a year, I try to, salmon and egg whites. Almonds, those are probably my top 3. I try once a year, I just try them. And then every year I'm like, why did I do this again? I think they're just done. I mean, it's been 10 years, Maybe this will be the year that I'll, because it's really, salmon and almonds aren't as big of a deal, but it's hard not to have eggs. Because they're everywhere and they're in everything. I can eat them baked in, but and egg whites. And who goes to a restaurant and asks for an egg yolk omelet? I do. And then they look at you funny because everybody's getting egg whites because those are healthier, which they're not, and that's a whole other presentation. But yeah. So, do you feel stress around your food choices? Do you feel stressed out, like what to choose, or like when to eat, or how much to eat, or like all the things, like meal planning, groceries, kind of all that? Most people feel some amount of stress. So some of those markers could be that you have maybe an unhealthy relationship with food, or pieces or bits of that. Or maybe at certain times of your life you have more unhealthy relationship and other time, do well. And most of us aren't perfect. So, but let's talk about mindset as it relates to that. So, has anybody heard the idea of fixed mindset versus growth mindset? That's what I'm going to talk about a little bit. Okay, some of you, about a third of you have. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that generally, and I'm going to give you some like scenarios of things I see often. Most of them are food related, but they don't have to be food related. They can be other things, so I'll give you a couple of examples. So the ideal approach to making any kind of changes, and I would argue sort of living your life, is a growth mindset. That means you're open that anything could be better or different than it is now, and that you're committed to getting there. Now, you can't be taller, you can't make you taller. There's things you can't change. But I hear that a lot. I hear that with the whole genetics argument. Well, everybody in my family's overweight, so I'm gonna be. Well, no, not necessarily. Everybody in my family has diabetes, so here I am, And so you've already accepted that you don't even have the power to change some of those things, and you do. Might be harder. Genetics do play a role, but it's about an 80-20 role. So it's like that nature-nurture debate. So nature being the genetics, that's about 20% of sort of what can happen to you. The other 80% are the choices you make every day, what you eat, kind of all those things. So a growth mindset, often you are kind of inspired by others. Maybe you came to Elizabeth's Pilates class today and you're like, I'm gonna sign up for this, which you should. And maybe that was inspiring to you to just get going and kind of try something different. You believe that you can improve even 1% every day, or that you can succeed. You believe it's possible. Maybe you don't know how to do it, but you're like, that's like, there's a faith piece in there too. Like even if you don't know what you're doing or how to do it, you know it can happen. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in a week or next month. Maybe it's over the course of years, but you know you can. You believe that maybe you don't have the skills now, but that you could develop them. Do you want to know something that I'm really bad at? Putting together a cardboard box from flat to box-like. Awful. So they used to make fun of me at my old job because we like package up files or whatever, and I'm like, I need somebody to help me with this. And I would do it, and then people watch me struggle, and they're like, Sarah, just let me take care of it. But I was like, no, like I'm gonna do this. And I think it hurt more other people to watch me do it than me do it. If you want a cardboard box put together, I can do it. It'll take me a long time if you're okay with that. But I'm not gonna just sort of, siphon that out to someone else because I can't do it. Like I can. It's just one of those things I'm just not great at. I always burn garlic bread. All my pecan pies are awful. I don't know. They don't turn out. I'm gonna follow a recipe. I can make up my own. It doesn't matter. But I'm not gonna stop making them or trying them. And it just kind of makes it funny. My pecan pies are more like a crumble at the end. More like I don't know. They don't really. They look just like pies. Like they taste good though, but they just don't look like. I don't know. It's just I'm not good at it. So you can identify things you're not great at. It doesn't mean that you can't try to develop the skills to do it. Also, it's okay to let some of that stuff go. Like, does it really matter for the rest of my life? I can't put it together a cardboard box. Probably not really that big a deal. And I can ask for help, and that's okay too. But you believe that you maybe don't possess the skills today, but that those can be developed. I see this in mental health. I see this in couples work too. It's just that you don't have the skills, it's like communication, some of that stuff. You just haven't developed that yet. So we just need to work on that, or that's something we need to work on. I see this with sleep a lot of times with people, particularly with women, but also I would say teenage girls who have a hard time falling asleep. You just haven't obtained the skills yet to train your body to fall asleep. Now, maybe there's something else going on with cortisol or hormones and we need to fix that too, and I'm not gonna not look at that, but it's just like, you know that you have the skills that you could develop them, even if you're really bad at it. Have you ever heard the idea of like, surround yourself with people that are way better at things than you are? I try to do that constantly. I think a lot of people aren't comfortable with doing that. I kind of like am in the opposite. So if I'm gonna go to a gym or I'm gonna go to yoga class or Pilates, I'm gonna make sure that most everybody in there is better at it than me. Because then that allows me to grow. It's uncomfortable because I'm like flopping around and everybody's, going to the splits or whatever. But that's why when I choose people, or like when I chose Elizabeth to do Pilates, I'm picky like who I choose to help me with things because I want them to be a lot better at it than I am, and then that allows me to grow. I'm in multiple situations in my life where I've maybe tried to get help for something and isn't a lot of like growth potential there, or it just kind of like maxes out, so then you gotta move on and, you know, kind of do something else. So, if you have a growth mindset, you kind of like challenges, you wanna be challenged. If you don't have a growth mindset, you kind of like to stay in your little box and just keep it safe, which is okay to go there sometimes. You persevere, so you don't stop till it's done, or till you're satisfied, or till you can figure it out. It doesn't mean you're not happy, by the way. Sometimes that's like an assumption. People that have a growth mindset, people that are achievers and like always going to the next thing and trying something new, has nothing to do with their happiness. People that have a growth mindset can be content and happy in life, and they're just wanting to try something new, and they realize that life is short on this earth, and you might as well take a pottery class, or try rock climbing, or dye your hair orange, or whatever. Like, it's fine. Like, it's just hair. Rock climbing, you could die, but you know, yeah, there are some risks. But you believe that you have the right attitude, and that attitude and effort determine kind of everything in your life moving forward. Okay, so if those resonate with you, that's good. Like, you're in a good spot. Those are people that work with lots of different people, but people who have that mindset do much better when I'm working with them on one-on-one, because they're like, let's do this. Like, this is gonna be hard, but like, let's do this one piece at a time. If you have a fixed mindset, you're more likely to have kind of all or nothing thinking. We're gonna talk about that with food today. Either it is or it isn't. You may do things like blame your genetics or something, or the way your mom fed you or something, for the way that you are. You have a hard time hearing feedback without feeling like personally attacked, like it's personal for you. You have a history of starting a lot of things but quitting them fairly quickly, so that's that perseverance thing. You have a constant feeling of feeling just incapable. By the way, most people, you probably have some from each group. Or that you believe that you're defined by your innate abilities. Because you weigh a certain thing, or you're a certain height, or your culture, or because you live in Wisconsin and it's really cold, or like there's all these things that you can't do, this long list of other things, because of just how you are, as opposed to you can do them, but it's super hard. It's kind of like right now when it's super cold, people are like, well, I can't really get my work. I usually walk outside, but I can't do that because it's cold. And I say, I'm not doing it, by the way, but I say you can, but you have to like bundle up and do all the things. I mean, minus some of those days where it was like death out, like I probably wouldn't go outside then, but like you can. It's just gonna be harder though. You still can go outside, you still can take a walk, but then you need like, you know, the right equipment. So that's growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So keep that kind of in mind as we walk through a couple of these scenarios. So does anybody have an example, or just like want to share, like where did they get caught up in not making progress? When you decide, here we are, the first of the year, that you want to make some changes, a lot of times they're health changes, where do you get caught up? Do you start and not finish? Do you never start? What gets in the way?
If nobody's saying, I would just tell you,
Yeah.
lack of discipline.
Okay, good. I usually hear the word motivation, so I'm happy to hear the word discipline actually, because I like that
Motivation is
better.
a thing,
Yeah.
but discipline is the biggie. You gotta,
And so then if you have a growth mindset, then you believe that you can gain
well,
discipline, maybe you
it's
don't
like
have it now.
if you're doing something that you're trying to change that you normally do. If you're doing something you love or what you're doing, great tenacity, all
Right.
the way to the, over the top.
Yeah,
Yeah, that thing that you want to, yeah. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay,
yeah,
hit it, and then, you know, all of a sudden, one day is gone from the gym, and then 2 days are
Yep,
gone.
I
Pretty
hear
soon
that a
there
lot.
goes the
Same with
gym.
food.
It went,
Yep.
yeah,
so like discipline and habits.
yeah.
One of the times I was here, I talked about the myth of motivation, so I talk about that a lot. And so I hear from many people, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like batch cooking on Sundays. I don't feel like going grocery shopping. I don't feel like going to the gym. You know what? I don't feel like any of those things. Almost never, actually. And so it's discipline and habits and kind of, you know, adapting those behaviors and making yourself, you know, keep going on that. And then hopefully at some point some of that stuff you like. It's also okay if you don't like them. We're not 4 years old and live in a world where everything we do we love. Like, and so there's a little bit of a trade-off. And I'm not saying don't find physical activity you like, but there's a little bit of a trade-off with, if there's things that you wanna get to, you might not love the process, or this isn't a party and we're eating cake every day, like that's just okay. And I think, a lot of people like get stuck making changes because they think it will be easy, or they really like underestimate how much like changing your habits and the discipline and like doing something different is. It is hard. And if it were easy, you would have done it already. Because usually you probably pick the easy stuff first, and it's the hard stuff that you keep staying away from because it's hard to do. So then I talk about things like habit stacking and how to develop discipline, like it's just a skill that maybe you have in some areas but you don't have in others. Motivation, throw that in the garbage. If you expect that you're gonna be motivated for things, that'll be difficult. You are probably from time to time motivated to do things, and that's awesome. But don't use it as a precursor, or that you need that feeling in order to do a thing, because there's a lot you probably won't do if you're not motivated. And we talk about motivation a lot of times. Sometimes I get people call me and be like, I just need you to help motivate me. And I'm like, ugh. You know, not that I don't try to do that, but like, that's gotta come from within, and take that piece out of the equation and talk about discipline and habits and just doing the things. You don't have to feel like it, just start doing the behavior, and then the rest may come. And then maybe you decide you do love it, and that's great. And if you don't, that's okay, and you could do something else. That goes with like activity and movement. It goes with food too. When sometimes I work with people who've like I worked with somebody last month who never had a vegetable her whole life. And so I thought, oh man. And so she's in her 20s. And first I was like, are you sure? Like I'm like making a list of stuff. And I printed off pictures, 60 pages of vegetables. And so I worked with her for a year, and we tried as many as we could. Some she was like, oh, I can't, nope. I'm like, let's pick like 20 and then try them. And so she liked half. And so you could argue, oh my gosh, she's only still eating 10 vegetables. Well, that's 10 times more than she was before, you know? And so, but what I told her is, don't develop an emotional attachment to if you try broccoli and you don't like it. First of all, I'm gonna have you try it more than once. Second of all, raw broccoli is like, I don't really like that, but we could steam it, or we could roast it, or like there's different ways to do things. Some of us who've grown up eating vegetables a certain way, we didn't like them as a kid, and then as an adult, somebody makes them in a different way, and you're like, oh, these are good, I don't think I like these. I hear that with beets, I hear that with lots of things. And so, but also if she tries it 3 ways and doesn't like broccoli, then we'll just move on to green beans, or like there's 100 vegetables, you know, we can try lots of different things. So think about that with food too. Did anybody not like the passion fruit? Like it was too sour, or it didn't sit well with them? No? Okay, that's good. Because there's other fruit back there too.
You know, when you were talking about the growth mindset, I think with the fixed mindset, it comes from people that have low self-esteem, or they're not born with innate gifts that you, as you get older, you recognize
that you have.
more. And so that is what is fixed.
Yeah. And we're all born with innate gifts. You just might have not fully,
not born with them.
but you might not have fully recognized what they are. You don't necessarily have more than I do, but yours are probably different. I wish you were better at putting together boxes than I am. And so it's like having, and sometimes that's where like counseling or therapy can be helpful too. It's like connecting with that and finding your passion a little bit, and finding what you are good at, and kind of doing more of that. And if there's things you aren't good at, being like, okay, this is what I want to be able to do by the end of the year. How am I gonna, what do I need to do to get there? Most of you know I've been doing aerial silks for about 8 years. You know, where you hang from the fabric like Pink does in the, but I had to start by going to like an intro class. It took me 3 sessions to learn how to wrap my leg around that for the first time and stand in it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't, like the spatial awareness was, the spatial awareness, that's not one of my innate gifts. I'm like, do it again, you know. And within 2 years, I was performing up in Madison, 25 feet up, flipping up and down, you know. And so, but it didn't start there, you know. And there was tons of fear involved in falling and kind of all that stuff. But that's the same. You think of like athletes or people that start a business. That's scary. You know, it's like that too. So I put together a couple scenarios that I hear pretty often. So let's talk through those a little bit today. So the first scenario, I call it the Oreo phenomenon, which you've heard me talk before. I talk about it a lot, but I'm going to talk about it again because it never gets old. But it's the all or nothing. So that's the first mindset scenario you might have to deal with. I think of Oreos every time I think about this. So my example is, you eat mostly whole foods, or you're good through the week. I hate that word, and then Friday, you get off a little bit early, you get home, it's like 3, 4 o'clock, and you're like, oh, I just wanna like sit on the couch. And for whatever reason, you have Oreos in your house, which is fine. And you have 4 Oreos, right? I use this example also because I've been eating Whole Foods for I don't know how long, and I still think an Oreo tastes amazing. So there's some like, I don't eat much processed food at all, but if you put an Oreo in front of me, I'll allow that. Especially now that there's gluten-free ones, now I feel like I can eat the whole package. So, because other ones do bother my stomach. So you had these 4 Oreos, right? And then your mind starts, and you're like, dang it, I had 4 Oreos. I'm supposed to eat all whole foods, supposed to follow this meal plan that Sarah gave me, supposed to do all this stuff. Blew it. Done. So then you have 4 more. And you have ice cream with it, because that goes well together. Then maybe you have a glass of wine. Then you're even more mad at yourself, because you just blew your whole diet. Then you're like, well, it's Friday night. What do you tell yourself? Tell me what I'm going to say. Start on Monday. I just said start on Monday. Since I've just sat here in an hour and a half and I ate these Oreos and this ice cream, I might as well blow the next 2.5 days, because that makes sense. Now when I say it, you're like, that's crazy, but everybody does it. We call that the weekend warrior scenario, which I'll go through too, but and then you start on Monday. The damage you do during those 2.5 days can be awful, because you're like over consuming, because you know you're gonna be like back to your plan on Monday. And so I try to get people to realize like that teeter-totter can look like this. And if you just would have had the 4 Oreos and enjoyed them and savored them and stopped, it's fine. You can probably have 4 Oreos every Friday, unless you have celiac and they're the regular Oreos. But either way, cake, whatever it is for you. And so building in those treats and those things, that's not going off plan. That's just part of your lifestyle. That should be part of that. You know, we talk about 80-20 and things like that. That's a good mindset. And in fact, I would argue for some of you, unless you're trying to lose a whole bunch of weight, you could probably have Oreos every night. And if it's built into your regular sort of eating plan, enjoy, have at it. And so that all or nothing is a big one. That's one I think I see the most often. Or if people don't get results right away, then they stop. Because we like to see instant results with things. Or I have people that I work with on weight loss, and they, you know, maybe I put together a meal plan and they come and see me after like 2-3 weeks, and they'll be like, oh, I only lost 2 pounds. First of all, like 1 pound a week is super healthy, like weight loss. Say they lost 2 pounds in 2 weeks and they're like, oh, this is awful, I can't do this. I'm like, wait, hold up. Let's do the math. You want to lose 30 pounds. In 30 weeks, you'll have lost 30 pounds. Oh my gosh, I can't do that there long. Well, then that's exactly the problem. This is a lifestyle you're adopting for the rest of your life. This isn't like we're going to go a diet and then we're going to get off. So like what we're doing now, and I try to keep things very moderate and sustainable, is generally give or take what you want to do kind of as a lifestyle. So I'm helping you establish a lifestyle habit. But yeah, that can be a big issue too, I think. So it's really a form of like self-sabotage. So if you can identify that in your head, and a lot of us tend to do that. Sometimes people go. Sometimes I see this after people hit their weight loss goals or after they feel amazing. I get a call like 2 months later. They're like, I don't know why I did this, but I stopped doing everything and now I don't feel good anymore. And so sometimes that can happen too. But a lot of times we're chasing this dopamine hit of like the scale or whatever. Often, and so this example that I think about, this happens all the time, but people come in and they lose 2 pounds in 2 weeks and they're sad. They're sad on my couch. And I'm not sad. I'm like, that's great. But they're like, oh, like I need to be faster, need to be more. What most people don't realize too is often you can lose a little bit less weight but lose inches and tons of inflammation. So some people will say, and sometimes I'm like, oh God, they're gonna be pissed again or whatever. And so sometimes I'll hear people say, oh, this month I only lost 5 pounds, but holy crap, I feel completely better, like I have no bloating, which then feels like you lost like 20. People are noticing on my face, my belly, and I only lost 5 pounds, like how can they tell? But again, that's back to the inflammation part too. So the scale is one thing and one number that we measure, but one of probably 15 things that I measure. But it is a form of self-sabotage when you're like, well, forget it. Overeating, undereating, and negative thoughts are often triggered by certain events or situations. Could be specific traumatic events that have happened in your life. I see people with food trauma all the time. I see people who were children of domestic violence situations that they'd be hiding under the bed when their parents would fight, and then mom often would come to them later at night, pull them under bed, give them a hug and say everything's gonna be okay, do you want some ice cream? And so, sort of big picture, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can see how every time that would happen, and if you're rewarded by food, and it's usually something hyper palatable and sweet, that's where my therapy skills come in handy, then we have to work through that a little bit. So then every time you feel anxious, or you're in conflict, or you see someone else in conflict, what do? Go grab ice cream, or something like that, donut, whatever. So it's working through some of that stuff too. Triggers are different for every individual. It could be something a little bit more big deal like that, and it could be something else. Could be something small. The goal, when I work with people, is to identify your triggers and make a plan to navigate them. So I do that in session a lot of times with people. Because then we know, hey, you keep going through this cycle, you know this is gonna happen, it's happened before, let's sort of plan on it happening and figure out how we're gonna, navigate it. And maybe sometimes you're good at navigating it, sometimes you're not, that's okay. The second scenario that I hear people say is, I'm just gonna gain all my weight back if they're trying to lose weight, I don't know why I bother. Well, you've already decided that you're gonna gain it back, so there's a mindset thing there too. So if you can believe that you just need to do something different, or let's try something else, I don't know why we expect it to be easy, but why would you put that in your head already that it's not gonna work? I hear this in the therapy world too. I've seen 3 or 4 therapists, this isn't gonna work, like in the first 5 or 10 minute session, with me, so that's awesome to hear from me, but no pressure. But seriously, like people have jumped and bounced around, exercise is the same thing, I've tried to exercise before, it hasn't worked. I hear that with food a lot. No, I've dieted, it's not, anything you give me, it's not gonna work. And I'll be like, just wait a second, like this might be different than we've tried. Then I lay out, like, here's what I'm thinking, and they're like, wow, this is different than what I'm doing. Perfect, that's good, we want different, because what you've done hasn't worked. Mindset scenario 3, you don't celebrate your wins. You don't celebrate the 2 pounds, the loss of inflammation, your hair looks thicker, your skin looks shinier, you're in a better mood. And sometimes we call those like non-scale victories. Like we like to, for those people who are trying to lose weight, we call those non-scale victories, that those matter just as much, and sometimes more. Sometimes I ask people, somebody will come to me and say, I want to lose 70 pounds. Like, okay, that's gonna take a little while, let's put something in place. And they'll say, well, I've lost and gained 70 pounds 12 times in my life, 70, and then I just go back up again, back to the self-sabotage. And I tell them, hey, how about, would you rather lose 70 pounds with me or someone else, and then gain it back, and do that for the next 30 years, for the rest of your life? Or would you rather lose 35 or 40, and be able to maintain it fairly easily and sustainably for the rest of your life? People are like, oh, I didn't think about that. And most often people say, wow, if I could lose and maintain 35 or 40 pounds, even though I feel like in my head I want 70, I'll take that. Not that it's not okay to want to lose 70, or not that you can't shoot for that, but getting to something first and be able to sustain it is kind of most important. So not celebrating some of those wins or victories and just kind of being, focused on the negative, that's another one too. So the other one I hear very often is that I'm not in control. I'm not in control of what I eat. There was a guy I was working with, and he was sitting at it was like a sales table or something, and he sends me a picture of cookies, like in the middle of it, it's like a Sunday. He's like, well, I can't not eat these. I'm like, yes, you can. Yeah, you can. No, I can't. They're white chocolate macadamia, Sarah, you don't understand. I'm like, okay, well, you can move them or whatever, or you can sit in front of them, smell them all day. And by the way, you could eat one, it's fine. But like, if you already told yourself that you can't not eat them, you've already set yourself up for failure. So that's back to mindset again. You can tell yourself, I don't need these, whatever. You also can tell yourself, I would really like a cookie, and I'm gonna have one and enjoy it, and then move on with your life. It's a cookie. Don't eat 50 or whatever, but then you'll feel sick. But if you decide ahead of time that something's not gonna work, it probably won't. I can't control what I eat, I'm a failure. I can't control my impulses, things like that. You can. I can't get to the gym, I'm not motivated. Sometimes I tell people I'm at the athletic club 6 or 7 days a week, and so sometimes there's that assumption that I love to work out, or I love to go there and be there. Patty, you and I were just talking about this in the locker room, because I think I shared this with you and you were like, what? And I said, sometimes it takes me 20 minutes in my car to so I talk myself into going, because I want to, especially if it's cold. But I don't think I've ever not gone in, but it takes me a while to be like, you can do this, you want to do, I don't want to. I don't mind it once I'm there. I wouldn't say I love it. I'd rather be like watching a movie on the couch, but, and there's the social interaction and all the other things that come from belonging to something, like a gym that have nothing to do with working out. But don't make the assumption because you see somebody eating really healthy or you see them working out all the time, that it's easy for them. Oh, well, they have some innate ability to be able to do all these things. Like, nope, they gotta work at it just like you, so you just gotta decide. The weekend warriors are the thing I talked about. I kind of touched on this with the Oreo phenomenon, but again, something happens on a Friday or you have some trigger, or maybe it's even the middle of the week, and then you just give up and you wait till Monday. Many of you have heard my book idea. I always wanted to write a book that was called Wednesday, just title it Wednesday, and talk about habits a little bit, because how often do you hear people say, I'm gonna start that on Wednesday? Usually it's Monday, or on the first of the month, or the day, New Year's Day, or the day after Christmas, or there's always a reason to wait, and never a reason to just start it now, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I'd rather you start something imperfectly and keep doing it imperfectly than if you wait for it to be perfect, and if you think that you're not going to fail or slip up, it's never gonna happen. It's gonna look like this, and through different periods of your life, it might definitely look like that. The last one I see often is comparison. You heard the idea, comparison is the thief of joy. Maybe you go to the gym, maybe you're watching other people in the Pilates class today, and you're like, whoa, that girl can put her whole leg behind her neck, or whatever. Well, she didn't show up like that, first of all, and maybe she's a ballerina, we don't know. And maybe Elizabeth will work with her because she's a ballerina, she'll pop her shoulder out. That person looks really fit, or they have good muscle mass, or they're lean, or whatever. We're all built differently, but if you were to sit down and sometimes talk with someone about what their workouts are, or what they do, you might be blown away at what they do to build to kind of maintain that. And maybe you don't want to maintain it, and that's okay too. But if you compare yourself, we think about don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Have you heard that before? Maybe you're just in the beginning of eating differently or starting a healthy lifestyle journey. Don't compare yourself with someone who's been doing it for 20 years. And then you'll get there too, but they have 20 years of work to do that. And so don't compare your beginning with someone else's middle. I also guarantee you there's other people out there comparing themselves with you all the time. They just don't tell you. And so you assume no one does it to you, but you're just comparing yourself with other people. I guarantee you it's the opposite. And it's awful, we all do it. And so that's not good either. Or I can't lift as much weight as somebody, or I'm not strong, or you can see how those messages would continue on your, in your head. So the big thing that I talk about when we talk about lifestyle and food change is just food quality and avoiding just ultra processed foods and eating lots of lean meats and fish and poultry and fruits and vegetables and maybe some grains. Otherwise, I really like, for carbohydrates, I really like potatoes, like red potatoes, Yukon Gold potatoes, sweet potatoes, plantains, butternut squash, stuff like that. Some nuts and seeds are okay at some level too. But if you're making a plan for a change for 2024, something related to food, couple suggestions. One of the things that I do in my house is I don't buy the Oreos, or I would eat them. I wish they would make the gluten-free ones in little 4-packs, because I buy those and eat them and be done. What happens to me is I buy the whole, the double stuffed ones, and then I eat a few, and then I'm like, okay, someone eat, my kids, you guys have to eat all of these right now. And they make fun of me, because they're like, Mom's gonna make you eat all of those cookies right now. Or I have to give them away or do something, because I know with those, in particular, not other stuff as much, but those, if they're in my house, I'll find them. And my husband, Mike, will be like, I'll hide them. I'm like, I will find them. I can smell them. You take them to work. I make them take his stuff to work all the time. And so one of the rules in my house we have too is that people make my husband stuff. He's a veterinarian in town. They make him peanut butter bars, donuts. They bring stuff all the time into the clinic. And so every time I walk in there, there's a ton of stuff in there. Don't you bring it home. Don't bring it home. And so sometimes, a couple times we've had to switch cars, and I go in his car, and I'm like, it smells like chocolate peanut butter in here, everything. There's stuff everywhere in there, because he keeps it in his car, because they're not bringing it house. But if you know that you have a hard time with stuff being in the house. Now I have plenty of stuff in my house that I don't touch or my kids have or whatever, but there's certain things like Oreos, like, or there's certain things for me that I know I'm gonna eat. So those like, what are those Loft House cookies with the frosting?
Oh, yeah.
Nope, I can't have those in the house either. There's plenty of stuff I can say no to, and I could say no to those, so I shouldn't say I can't, but it's harder for me, so I'm just not even gonna go there. So if I need Oreos, or I want Oreos, it's perfectly okay for me to, in the winter, go start my car and drive to Target, which is probably the closest for me, and go get them. And if I do that a couple times a year and I eat some Oreos, oh well, right? But if I keep them in my house, I'm probably gonna have them all the time. And so keep those really hyper palatable things that for you are like, oh, that you can't stop eating, that you just eat all the time. Keep them out of the house, do something else with them. Only eat, this is a hard one, only eat in one location of your house. Try to stay at a table, maybe that's not it for you, whatever it is. You need to associate sort of the process of eating and the way that your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system works when you eat and calm, generally with one spot in your house. How many people eat at one spot in their house, or where others, like places do you eat? Yeah.
I always eat at my coffee table in front of the TV.
Okay, all right. What about you, Elizabeth?
I sit on the couch looking at the deck.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Where else does everybody else eat? Or do you eat in multiple places? No, same spot, so that's good. Related to your comment, ideally turn off your TV. I know a lot of us like scroll on our phones while we're eating. It impairs your digestion. It doesn't sound like it, it sounds crazy when I say that. But while you're eating, you want to eat. You need to be able to digest. You need to turn your stomach acid on. You need to smell the food and not like just force it down, not even smell it, but like smell it, sit, eat your salad first, that'll kick up your stomach acid, drink some lemon water, that'll kick up your stomach acid, because the point in eating is first of all joy, in some regard to joy, and maybe connection if you have someone else at home talking, but it's, you gotta digest the food. And you're not gonna digest it well, and you might have digestion issues if you're trying to do a whole bunch of other things while you're eating. I've done it a ton. About 3-4 days a week, I eat breakfast in my car. Because I'm in between things and I can't make it home or whatever. But I plan for it. I do a pea protein yogurt bowl with soy nuts and peanut butter powder and usually fresh strawberries. And then I sit in my car and I turn on music and whatever and I eat. And it's not that big of a deal, but I don't rush and I try to plan time to kind of do that. I will say there's plenty of times that I am rushing eating in between clients, like back to back. I'm trying to like stuff something that, it's not great. And so then that impairs my digestion too. And so just sitting down and eating. So that's why snacking is like iffy too, because you're running around, and if you're snacking, it's because you don't have time to make a meal, and you're just running around and eating kind of throughout the day. And so setting aside a couple meal times is really great. Maybe it's just lunch and dinner, maybe it's breakfast and lunch, whatever. But eating just less on the go as much as you can. And if you have kids, try not to do that too. I know there's some times where you have to, and that's fine, but trying to do that more than not. So the opposite of like getting the Oreos out of your house, keep the foods that you want to eat more of very accessible. Make it easy for you to reach your goals. On Sundays I chop up fresh vegetables, and there's bags of fresh vegetables in our fridge. No one seems to grab vegetables unless they're like chopped up and like ready to go. So I've learned that. It's very irritating. But if you chop it up and they're like, oh, some chopped cucumbers, those look good. They look somehow way better than the cucumber that was like put together and not chopped up. But it's true. I have this issue with oranges in my house. My son just said this to me last week. Like, oh, and you asked for it. He loves fruit, apples, whatever. Like, you ate all the apples. All these oranges are sitting here. He's like, ugh, too much work.
Too much work, yeah.
And then he's like, why can't you get the cuties? Because they're easier to peel. I'm not going to peel the oranges for you. So, but if you know that you're going to be running around, or that you are trying to develop a new habit, you want to make your new habit really easy to do, and your not so great habits really hard to do, i.e., keep the Oreos at Target and don't have them in your house so they're not accessible. Keep fresh vegetables, or maybe like every Sunday I cook like 2 to 4 pounds of chicken and just like shred it up. In fact, I picked my order up after this. I think I have 50 pounds of chicken sitting out there. Ground beef, whatever. Like, I know, because then it's like shredded cooked chicken in the fridge, readily available for everyone for the whole week. When I come home late, or I'm maybe at a 9 hunger, I'm probably not gonna like defrost chicken and start cooking it and whatever, cause I'm like, like I'm at a 9. And so I shouldn't have waited that long, but for whatever reason, let's say that happened. However, my chicken is cooked and shredded and ready to go, I can throw it in the microwave maybe with some salsa or like something like that, and I could eat in like a minute or 2. And so just knowing your schedule and trying to be honest with yourself. That's why I'm into batch cooking, and I have, most of my meal plans have people batch cooking, because not that you have to cook 7 days of food all in one day, but cooking a chunk of it on a Sunday or whatever your schedule is a really good idea. I make my breakfast, lunches, and on Sundays, right after I make breakfast for my kids, and then I don't necessarily make all the dinners ahead of time, although if I'm making like spaghetti or chili, I totally make that ahead, because that'll keep. But that's when I chop the vegetables and make the proteins and just make it easily assemble. We probably do stir fry in our house, I bet, every week, because you can make it different. But if I have all the vegetables chopped and ready to go, and if I have, let's say, a chicken or a protein cooked and ready to go, if you're gonna do rice, that's really all you gotta do. Make some rice, and then I just toss everything in a pan, and it's ready to, it's ready to go in like 10 minutes. So, if you're not doing the rice, it's ready to go in 5 minutes. So think of those easy kind of throw together meals. Pre-plan your shopping list. Don't go to Woodman's or Basics or Aldi or wherever you go. Don't go when you're at a 9. I have learned not to go when I'm at a 1 though, actually, too. Nothing looks good, and then I come home, and I'm like, well, this just happened to me here, actually, 2 weeks ago. I came home, and Mike was like, do you need help getting groceries out of the car? I was like, nope, this is all I got. He was like, oh, good job. I'm like, nope, I don't know. I spent $24 on groceries for all 4 of us, so this is probably not enough. So I had to go back later, but I didn't feel good. I was bloated, and I wasn't hungry. And so, but I had to get groceries for the week, like it had to happen. So I just make myself go, but I just didn't get enough of anything, because it didn't look good. So don't go when you're at a 9 either. But, pre-plan your shopping list, so you have a list. You mostly stick to your list, you get what you need. Reflect on how full you are, we talked about that 1 to 10 scale. Try not to eat super quick, because your body hasn't even registered that you're full, so you're gonna eat more if you eat really quick. Try not to use food as a reward. Sometimes when people are losing weight, they'll say, oh, when I lose XYZ number of weight, then I'm gonna have cake or brownie or whatever. So again, that's fine, like once in a while, but don't do that, because you're just emotionally just messing yourself up. I'd rather have you see you, I don't wanna indulge like overspending, but I'd rather have you like buy a new purse or get a facial or like do something for yourself, like self-care or massage or something like that, than reward yourself with food. Now, like I go to Bodacious downtown about once every month or 2, and I get one of those gluten-free chocolate brownies, but I don't do it as a reward. I do it as part of my plan in my month to do it. So one of the things that I do to achieve moderation is I have 3 meals a month that I don't even worry about what they are. Or 3 things a month, so it might be that brownie, they're huge, usually I can only eat half, but it might be French fries, it might be going out to eat and whatever, splitting a dessert or something like that. 3, maybe 4, that's about it. Not days, not full days, because I tend to indulge the whole day, and then I don't feel good. I do not feel good the next day. With the exception of I never eat anything that I know is not gonna make me feel good. And so I know the things that bother me, and I don't eat those at all. But I know the things that I can indulge in, and I'm not worried about fat, protein, carb, none of that. I'm just gonna eat something I like, as long as it agrees with, for me, my stomach usually. I'm not gonna worry about what it is. I'm gonna enjoy it, and then I'm gonna move on. But you pre-plan those things. I don't even like to call them cheats. It's not a cheat, it's part of your lifestyle. So whatever it is for you, I hear people at the gym talking about like cheat days, like, I don't really like that, because it's just, then it means you're like, you fall off the wagon or you're off the plan. And I don't definitely do not like to do it a whole day. Even when we talk about like Thanksgiving and Christmas, Thanksgiving tends to be this like you eat all day or like something, but really if you could think of it as just like one meal. So just eat how you would the whole normal part of the day leading up to whatever your meal is and after, and then eat whatever you want during, Thanksgiving. Christmas, I do that too, like Christmas Eve, we're usually at somebody's house or whatever, so I'm gonna eat whatever then, but that day leading up to Christmas Eve, I'm gonna do what I normally do. I'm not gonna change that, and then I'm gonna enjoy Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day, that's what I'm gonna do too. New Year's Eve, I do that too, because we usually go out for New Year's Eve, we usually go to Maryland Houston's. I just eat normally how I would the rest of it. I don't eat less either, punish myself because I'm gonna have cheesecake later. I just eat how I normally would, and then go enjoy a meal. It's just a meal, be done, love it, and then just go back to what you were doing before. But planning ahead is huge. talk with people, friends or family about your goals and ask for help. Ask for support, start telling people what you're working on. That helps with accountability a little bit. And I guarantee if you start talking to other people about what you're doing, they'll probably be like, me too. And then maybe you have a yoga partner or a gym partner, or maybe you can do like a soup swap where they come over to your house and you make a correct ton of soup and then you can split it or share it or whatever. You guys have heard like cookie swaps, right? But I'm like, why can't we do that with soup or, something else, like meals that everybody could take home? And then again, just kind of acknowledging your wins for sure. So, any questions? I'm gonna walk through this worksheet that I gave you, but any questions or comments on any of that?